She was there, standing slightly apart from the crowd, a solitary figure bathed in the soft glow of the garden lights. Her elegance was effortless, her demeanor reserved yet captivating. I found myself inexplicably drawn to her, as if an unseen force had guided our paths to intersect at this exact moment. Our initial exchange was a delicate ballet of words and shy smiles. I discovered her love for the arts, her passion for the serenity of nature, and her charming quirks. She spoke with a gentle conviction, her eyes lighting up with every word, painting vivid pictures with her stories. It was enchanting, listening to her, as if each word she uttered was a note in a symphony that I had longed to hear all my life. As the party swirled around us, we found ourselves enveloped in our own little world. We shared tales of dreams and aspirations, each revelation bringing us closer. Her laughter was a melody that resonated with my soul, and her smile was a beacon in the soft night. It was as if the universe had paused, granting us a timeless bubble where only we existed. When the night waned and the partygoers began to depart, we lingered, reluctant to end the magical connection we had found. Exchanging numbers, we promised to meet again, not realizing that this was just the beginning of an extraordinary journey. In the days that followed, each meeting was a chapter of discovery. We explored the city, shared quiet meals, and talked for hours under the stars. Each date was an adventure, each moment a treasure. We were two souls seamlessly aligning, drawn together by an inexplicable bond. But even in those moments of bliss, there were subtle signs, whispers of what was to come. Her occasional distant gaze, the unspoken thoughts that lingered in the air. They were like faint ripples on a calm lake, hinting at the turmoil that lay beneath. Yet, in the warmth of our growing love, these signs were easy to overlook, dismissed as mere figments of my imagination. As our relationship blossomed, so did our love. It was a love born from a chance encounter, but nurtured by shared dreams and mutual understanding. It was a love that promised forever, a bond we believed unbreakable. But as I would soon learn, even the most beautiful stories can have unexpected twists. And our story was no exception. As the seasons turned, our love story unfolded like a beautifully written novel, each chapter more captivating than the last. We journeyed through the tapestry of life together, hand in hand, heart in heart. Our relationship, once a delicate bud, blossomed into a vibrant flower, full of color and life. We moved through the milestones of our relationship with the ease of two souls that were meant to be. The 6 years we spent dating were a blur of joyous moments and shared dreams. We traveled together, exploring hidden corners of the world, each adventure a testament to our love. We laughed under the Tuscan sun, danced in the moonlight, and whispered sweet nothings under the northern lights. Each journey was a thread that wove our lives closer together. Our wedding day was a fairy tale come to life. She looked ethereal as she walked down the aisle, a vision in white that took my breath away. Our vows were promises not just of love, but of a lifetime of partnership and growth. We danced our first dance under a blanket of stars, surrounded by the warmth and well wishes of our loved ones. That day, we didn't just marry each other. We married our dreams, our hopes, and our infinite possibilities. The birth of our children marked a new chapter in our lives. We transitioned from lovers to parents, a role that brought new challenges but also immeasurable joy. Our home echoed with the sound of tiny feet and laughter, each day a new adventure. Watching her with our children, I saw a new facet of her love, gentle, nurturing, and infinitely patient. It was in these quiet moments of family bliss that I felt the most content. Throughout our journey, she maintained her gentle demeanor, her shy smile still as enchanting as the day we met. I often found myself making decisions for both of us, taking the lead and planning our life together. She seemed content in this arrangement, trusting me to steer the ship of our family. Her admiration for my strength and decisiveness was apparent, and it gave me a sense of pride and responsibility. Yet, beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect life, there were undercurrents I failed to notice. There were moments, fleeting and rare, when her gaze would drift away, lost in thoughts she never voiced. I attributed these moments to the stresses of life, never probing too deeply, confident in the foundation we had built. But life has a way of unraveling even the most carefully woven plans. Just when I thought our narrative was set, a twist in the plot was looming on the horizon, one that would test the very fabric of our existence. It was a storm that approached silently, ready to shake the foundations of the world we had so lovingly built together. Our life, a portrait of happiness and fulfillment, was about to be overshadowed by a truth so jarring it threatened to shatter everything I believed in. It began with a phone call, an unexpected and fateful interruption on a seemingly ordinary day. The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, trembling with a mixture of fear and resolve. It was a woman, her words slicing through the air like a blade. She revealed herself to be the wife of the man my own wife had been secretly involved with. Her story unfolded like a nightmare, each detail more horrifying than the last. My wife, the woman I had loved and trusted, had been living a double life. For over a year, she had been seeing this man, their clandestine meetings hidden behind the veil of normalcy. They met frequently, their lies woven with a skill that left me breathless. The revelation was like a punch to the gut, each word a blow to my heart. The woman provided undeniable evidence, photographs, messages, details of their rendezvous. They had crafted stories of business trips and late work nights, all while basking in the deceit of their affair. Their next escapade was planned in Paris, masked as a work commitment. The reality was far more sinister. She told me how she had first grown suspicious of her husband's behavior, the late nights, the secretiveness, the sudden trips. Her discovery began with a forgotten phone, left carelessly on the kitchen counter. What she found in that phone was a world apart from the life she knew. A world where my wife and her husband were the central characters in a secret romance. The messages between them were a mix of mundane plans and impassioned declarations. My wife, the woman I had loved for years, had poured out her heart to this man. She wrote of her longing to be with him, her dreams of a life together away from the eyes of the world. She spoke of love, a love that was supposed to be reserved for me, now freely given to another. The other woman's voice trembled as she recounted one particular conversation. It was a discussion where my wife had brazenly asked him to leave his family, to start anew with her. She painted a picture of their future, free from the constraints of their current lives. The audacity of her words stung like salt in an open wound. There were descriptions of their meetings, intimate dinners, secret getaways disguised as business trips, nights spent in each other's arms while we, their spouses, lay alone in our beds. The details were meticulous, each rendezvous planned with a precision that made a mockery of our marriage vows. The woman shared how they had spoken of their spouses with casual indifference, as if we were mere obstacles in their path to happiness. My wife's words, once tender and loving in my ears, were now weapons that tore through the fabric of my trust. She spoke of their plans in Paris, a trick they had painted as an innocent business engagement. In reality, it was to be a clandestine romantic getaway, a celebration of their forbidden love in one of the world's most romantic cities. The irony of the situation was a cruel twist, considering the special memories that Paris held for us. As I listened to the sordid details of their affair, a kaleidoscope of emotions spun inside me. Betrayal, pain, disbelief, and rage mingled in a toxic brew that threatened to overwhelm me. The woman on the phone, a stranger who now shared this unwanted bond with me, proposed a plan of confrontation. It was a desperate bid for closure, a chance to face the reality that had been hidden from us. As I processed this information, a storm of emotions raged within me. Anger, betrayal, disbelief. They all coursed through my veins like a toxic mix. The woman on the phone, a fellow victim of our spouse's treachery, proposed a plan. She wanted us to confront them together, to expose their lies in a dramatic revelation. I grappled with the decision, the weight of the impending confrontation heavy on my shoulders. The thought of seeing my wife, the mother of my children, in the arms of another was unbearable. Yet, there was a part of me that needed to see the truth with my own eyes, to shatter the illusion she had so carefully crafted. Agreeing to her plan, I prepared myself for the journey to Paris. My heart was a battlefield of emotions, each step towards the confrontation a descent into a reality I never imagined could be mine. The journey to Paris was a blur, each mile taking me further from the life I thought I knew. As the city of lights emerged on the horizon, a sense of dread intertwined with a desperate need for the truth settled over me. Paris, once a city of love and dreams in my heart, now felt like the stage for a tragic play. Arriving in Paris, the city's romantic allure was lost on me. The streets, cafes, and the Seine, which once symbolized love and joy, now echoed with the betrayal of my wife. I moved through the city like a ghost, haunted by the memories of our past visits together. The plan was simple yet daunting. The other woman had arranged for us to access the hotel where our spouses were staying. Posing as room service late at night, we aimed to catch them in their most vulnerable state, exposing their affair in the starkest way possible. As I approached the hotel, my heart pounded with a mix of fear and anger. The grandeur of the hotel was a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. The lobby was quiet, with only a few guests lingering. The other woman, a stranger linked by our shared heartache, met me there. We exchanged a look of mutual understanding, a silent pact in our quest for the truth. We made our way to their room, the corridor stretching before us like a path to judgment. Every step was heavy with the weight of the imminent confrontation. As we reached the door, a surreal sense of unreality washed over me. This was it, the moment of truth. The corridors of the opulent Parisian hotel echoed with the silent beats of my apprehensive heart as we approached their room. My companion, the other betrayed spouse, carried a look of steely determination, her eyes reflecting a pain mirroring my own. We were two strangers, bound by the shared betrayal of the people we once trusted most. As we reached the door, a wave of nausea mixed with rage washed over me. This was the point of no return. With a deep breath, we knocked our facade as room service a thin veil for the storm about to unleash. The door swung open, and there they were. My wife, her face a canvas of shock and fear, and him, the embodiment of my betrayal, frozen in a moment of guilt. The room, luxuriously appointed, felt like a cruel mockery of our simple, honest life. Without a word, we stepped in, closing the door behind us, cutting off their escape. The silence was deafening, punctuated only by the labored breaths of four broken hearts. Then, the dam broke. The other woman unleashed a torrent of accusations, her voice a mixture of anger and sorrow. She confronted her husband with the details of their affair, each word laced with the agony of betrayal. He stood there, head bowed, unable to meet her gaze. Turning to my wife, I found my voice. The questions poured out, each one a pained effort to understand why. Why she, who had been my partner, my friend, the mother of my children, had torn our world apart. Her responses were a mix of apologies and explanations, but they sounded hollow, like echoes of a love that once was. The man, now a stranger to me, tried to speak, to offer some semblance of reasoning. But his words were empty, meaningless in the face of our shared devastation. It became clear that their relationship was more than just a series of secret rendezvous. They had built a world of their own, a world where our pain was just collateral damage. The confrontation was a chaotic blend of anger, tears, and disbelief. It felt surreal, standing there, amidst the shattered pieces of what I had believed to be my perfect life. The realization that this was not just a fleeting affair but a deep, emotional bond they had formed was a bitter pill to swallow. As the confrontation drew to a close, there was nothing left to say. The truth was laid bare, ugly and raw. I left the room, the sounds of their futile apologies trailing behind me. Walking through the quiet streets of Paris, the city's famed romance felt like a cruel joke. The night air was chilly, but it was nothing compared to the coldness that had settled in my heart. In the wake of the Paris confrontation, the world I knew was irreparably altered. The return home was a journey back to a life that no longer felt like mine. The house, once a sanctuary of love and warmth, now echoed with ghosts of a shattered trust. The days that followed were a blur of pain and legal proceedings. Armed with the evidence of her infidelity, I filed for divorce. The process was cold and clinical, a stark contrast to the warmth and love with which we had once built our life together. As the reality of our separation settled in, so did the complexities of entangling our shared existence. Our children, innocent and confused, became the unintended victims in this unraveling tapestry. I struggled to maintain a sense of normalcy for them, even as my own world crumbled. The hardest part was witnessing their pain, their small faces clouded with confusion and hurt. They couldn't comprehend the reasons for the sudden change. Why mommy and daddy, once a symbol of happiness, were now living separate lives. In the solitude of my newfound reality, I found myself grappling with an unexpected turn in the saga. Amidst the legal entanglements and emotional healing, my wife began to reach out. Her attempts to bridge the chasm she had created were met with a storm of conflicting emotions within me. Her first attempt came as a simple text message, a few words floating in the digital space, an apology, a plea for understanding. She spoke of regret, of realizing the gravity of her mistake too late. The message ended with a question that hung heavily in the air: can we ever go back? Following that were emails, each more elaborate than the last. She recounted our history, the love we shared, and the life we built. She painted a picture of remorse, of a woman who had lost her way but now saw the light. Her words were a mix of sorrow and desperation, a plea for a second chance. There were voicemails to her voice, once a melody in my life, now a haunting echo of the past. She spoke of sleepless nights, of the pain of separation from our children, of the cold emptiness of her new life. In one message, she confessed that the affair, though intense, paled in comparison to the deep, enduring love and partnership we had shared. Her attempts didn't stop at messages. She showed up at the house once, unannounced. It was a rainy evening, the kind that we once loved to spend curled up together. She stood at the doorstep, drenched and shivering, her eyes a well of sorrow. She begged for a chance to explain, to talk, to see the kids. It was a picture of despair, but behind the veil of my own hurt, I could only see the betrayal. Each attempt to reach out left me in a turmoil. Part of me, the part that still remembered and cherished our good times, felt a pang of sympathy, a flicker of what once was. But it was quickly overshadowed by the vivid memories of the Parisian hotel room, the lies, and the shattered trust. The kids, too, were a factor in my decision. They missed their mother, and it pained me to see them caught in the crossfire of our broken marriage. But how could I trust her again? How could I let her back into our lives when her actions had torn our world apart? In the end, I held firm in my decision. The divorce proceeded, and we settled into a co-parenting arrangement that was professional, if not warm. Her attempts to rekindle what we had lost eventually tapered off, the reality of our irrevocably altered lives settling in. The journey of healing was long and arduous. There were moments of weakness, of unbearable loneliness, but they were counterbalanced by the strength I found in my children and the new life I was slowly rebuilding. In the divorce, I fought for, and won, the right to keep our family home and primary custody of our children. It was a small solace in a sea of turmoil, but it was important for me to provide stability for our kids. The house that we had filled with laughter and love now became a quiet haven for healing and reflection. The impact on our extended family and friends was like ripples in a pond, spreading far and wide. My wife faced the consequences of her actions, not just in our broken marriage, but also in her relationships with others. Her family, once warm and welcoming to me, was now divided, torn between supporting their daughter and grappling with the disappointment of her actions. Friends who had celebrated our union now offered awkward condolences, unsure of how to bridge the gap that betrayal had created. As for my wife, the aftermath was a harsh wake-up call. The affair, once a secret escape, had cost her everything: her family, her home, and her dignity. The man she had risked it all for had returned to his wife, who had decided to give him a second chance, leaving my wife alone in the ruins of her choices. In the solitude of my new reality, I began to pick up the pieces of my life. The process was slow and often painful, but necessary. I focused on my children, ensuring they felt loved and secure amidst the chaos. I spent nights awake, pondering the journey that had led me here, the signs I had missed, and the lessons I had learned. This chapter of my life had ended not with the joy I had once envisioned, but with a painful wisdom. I had loved deeply and lost profoundly, but in the loss, I found a resilience I didn't know I possessed. The path ahead was uncertain, but I was determined to walk it with strength for my children and for myself. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, as I navigated the uncharted waters of my new life. The pain of betrayal and the tumult of the divorce had left deep scars, but with time, they began to heal into a testament of my resilience. In this journey of self-discovery, I found solace in the small, everyday moments with my children. Their laughter became my sanctuary, their smiles a reminder of the joy that still existed in the world. We created new routines, new traditions, carving out a life that was different yet fulfilling. I also took this time to rekindle old passions and explore new interests. I found peace in long, solitary runs in the early morning, the quiet streets a contrast to the chaos that had once consumed my life. I rediscovered my love for painting, a hobby I had set aside in the busyness of family life. Each stroke of the brush was therapeutic, a way to express the emotions that words could not capture. As I rebuilt myself, my social circle evolved. I reconnected with old friends, those who had stood by me in my darkest hours, and forged new friendships with people who entered my life in this new chapter. They provided support, laughter, and a sense of community that was vital in my healing process. Professionally, I found a renewed focus and drive. My work, once just a part of my routine, became a source of pride and satisfaction. I immersed myself in projects, finding success and recognition that bolstered my confidence and sense of self-worth. In the quiet moments, when the kids were asleep and the world around me was still, I reflected on the journey. The pain of my wife's betrayal, though dulled, was still a part of my story, but it no longer defined me. It was a chapter in my life, a harsh lesson that had taught me about the complexities of love and trust. I learned to forgive, not for her sake, but for mine. Forgiveness was my liberation from the chains of anger and bitterness. It didn't erase the past, but it allowed me to move forward, to embrace the possibilities of the future. As I write this final chapter, I realize that life is a mosaic of experiences, some joyful, some painful. Each piece, no matter how broken, has a place in the tapestry of our existence. The betrayal was a part of my mosaic, but so were the countless moments of happiness, growth, and love that followed. In the end, I emerged from this ordeal not just as a survivor, but as a man transformed. I was stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. The future was uncertain, but it held a promise of new beginnings, new dreams, and a new chapter waiting to be written. As I close the pages of this chapter of my life and look towards the horizon of new beginnings, I am reminded of the power of sharing our stories. Each story, including mine, is a tapestry of triumphs and trials, and in sharing them, we find common ground, understanding, and perhaps even healing. If this story resonated with you, if it stirred something in your heart, or if you simply found a moment of connection in my journey, I invite you to show your support. Your likes and subscriptions are more than just numbers. They are a testament to the shared human experience, a way of saying, your story matters. So, if you're willing to join me on this journey of storytelling, reflection, and discovery, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement means the world to me and encourages me to continue sharing, growing, and connecting with all of you. Thank you for being a part of my story. Together, let's continue